Good afternoon, everyone. And Assalamu alaikum, Chicago. It has only been 30 days. But these 30 days have been very difficult for the Muslims all over the country. And frankly speaking, throughout the entire globe. It's deja vu 2002 all over again for us. And as much as Sean Spicer, General Kelly, and Trump denied that this travel ban was not a Muslim ban, he was wrong. He was wrong! Was he not? And I'm not going to even talk about the specifics of the executive order. I'm just going to quote Mayor Rudy Giuliani. When he said on nationwide TV that Mr. Trump called him to ask for advice on how to legally institute a Muslim ban. And of course, Mr. Giuliani provided his services.
Screw Giuliani! That's right!
So now on, sisters and brothers, if anyone refers to this travel ban, this Muslim ban as a travel ban, please correct them. This is a Muslim ban. It's just phase one. And of course, Trump his executive orders are just like his tweets. He thinks about them, he writes them, and then thinks about them later. So when he signed this executive order, and of course, all people of conscience came out on the streets, they asked, why the quick enforcement? Why did you create chaos in all the airports across the country? Was there an imminent threat? Was there any intel to back up this action? Right, we know what it was, but let's just see what Mr. Trump has to say. Well, Mr. Trump at, of course, 3 in the morning, and of course, announcing all his foreign policy on Twitter, says, you know what? Bad dudes were about to rush into the country.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. Well, all I gotta say, that Mr. Trump definitely has access to Twitter, so we can assume that he does know how to use the internet. Had he done a quick search, he would have found a conservative body called the Cato Institute.
Hello.
And had he done that, he would have saved himself a lot of embarrassment. According to the Cato Institute, there has not been no citizen of any of the 7 countries has been part of any act of terrorism on our soil since 1975. Mr. Trump, no bad dude has rushed into our country and committed an act of terrorism since 1975. You could have spent some time vetting your executive order. If there is extreme vetting anywhere that needs to be done, it needs to be done on the executive orders of Mr. Trump. And folks, I need to put a disclaimer here. I don't think any citizen should be denied access to our country based on a rogue element within their country or a malicious or terrorist regime. But let's just try to pause and try to understand with the Trump logic if there's one that exists. I'm sorry?
He can't read.
He can't read. No, we know that. We know that he can't read. He can only tweet. But if we were to assume that, then you know what? We should paint a broad brush. Then you know what? If had he read the Cato Institute study, he would have found out that Saudi Arabia, UAE, and Qatar have been involved in 3,000 attacks on our soil. 2,300 of those belong to and Donald Trump would have been here in the U.S. instead of opening a golf club in Dubai. Of course, Mr. Trump is getting a lot of heat.
Yes, he is.
Of course we know that. But here, when asked, why did you choose these 7 countries? He had one thing to say. And that was that these 7 countries have strong ties to terrorism. And of course, we don't like Mr. Trump. I don't. I'm sure you don't either. Otherwise, you wouldn't be spending 60-degree weather here in Chicago protesting, right? But Mr. Trump says that these 7 countries have strong ties to terrorism. And I disagree with him on everything, but I will agree with this. He is right. He is right. These 7 countries do have strong ties to terrorism. They have been terrorized by the U.S. military industrial complex. Why did NATO attack Libya?
Stop bombing Muslims!
To this day, we don't know. Why did we ransack Iraq? The only reason that we get is faulty intelligence. My God, we've terrorized the country completely. We've obliterated its infrastructure, and the only response that we have is that we have faulty intelligence. We supported the good Taliban in Syria, only to find out that they were really ISIS. Why are we joining hands with Saudi Arabia to bomb Yemen? To this day, I have no idea. And folks, here's what we have to really think. What I just talked about happened over 16 years. 8 of those were governed by the Democrats. 8 of those governed by the Republicans.
Same thing!
The result is the same. Regardless of who governs, our thirst for regime change does not change.
Yeah.
If there is a way to stop the refugee crisis, then don't bomb these countries. Do not bomb these countries. Do not bomb these countries, because the byproduct of bombing a country are refugees. And of course, there's a lot of despair nowadays. A lot of frustrating news coming out every day. But I do have to say, I have hope for my country. That hope may not be coming from the government, but it's coming from the people of conscience. We're not looking at who we are. We're not focusing on the injustice. What is driving people out here today? Again, is because we are people of conscience. I draw hope from the U.S. District Judge Ann Donnelly. Within hours of this Trump executive order being signed, she put her foot down. She was dismissed, but she put her foot down. She's probably sleeping really well nowadays.
That's right!
I draw hope from Attorney General Sally Yates. She'd rather be dismissed than be part of a faulty executive order. I draw hope from the state of Washington, who finally did pause this whole executive order. And last but not least, folks, I draw hope from all of you.